Greetings Internet! Today let's talk about Formula E, the world's first fully electric single-seater racing series. I have spoken about this briefly before in a previous video, but this weekend we've just had the first actual race. Now I'm already a fan of Formula 1, but mainly on the tech side of things. I enjoy the developments and research that comes with it. And so I'm not actually much of a fan of any other kind of motorsport. But then Formula E presents itself as a slightly more green series, which is something that appeals to me. Of course, you've got to realise that it's not actually that much more green. Yes, it's fully electric, but the batteries are still being charged by coal power plants, and then the cars flown over the world in giant planes. But what it is zero emissions, which is definitely good for the city centres they are racing around, and a good technology which can be developed and filtered down into actual road cars. So this is a brand new racing series which has not been in development for a very long time, so let's talk about what was good and what was bad. For some reason the organisers have decided to go with a few gimmicks to try and, I don't know, grab a younger audience or something, but I'm not convinced that they work. First, there's Fan Boost. Before the race, people can visit the Formula E website, vote for their favourite drivers, and then the top 3 are allowed to use an extra bit of power during the race. To me, that seems completely unfair and a bit arbitrary. It's prone to vote rigging, and in fact people online are already like grouping together and saying, right, let's always vote for the bottom 3 drivers or something like that. Someone in some meeting somewhere has said, we've got to get involved with the users on the internet and Twitter and all that kind of sharing, and they've come up with this crazy idea, and it doesn't really make sense. Then there's the second edition, which seems a bit weird, and that's the Formula EJ. Their obsession with putting E in front of everything is a bit excessive. What's that supposed to be, an electric jockey? Just call him a DJ. But regardless of the name, I don't think it's necessary at all, and I'm not even convinced that the guy they had live at the place was actually responsible for the music. So whenever there was a lull in the racing, the formation lap, a safety car, the pit stops, suddenly there would be like a bizarre ambient electro backing music. It felt completely out of place, and it wasn't even very good, just generic drum loops going over and over and over again. And if they don't switch it up from race to race, it's going to get very, very boring. It's probably the idea, but along with the fan boosts, it makes it feel like a video game, and I think that cheapens the whole affair. The racing itself, though, was actually quite good. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be a bit of a procession, me included, but it wasn't. There was close racing, tight battles, overtakes, and one major incident. Another downside though, the pit stops were a little bit silly. Because of the massive power drain on the batteries for the cars going at this speed for so long, they don't have enough power for an entire hour race. They can't realistically stop and charge with current charging technology, so instead of going into the pit stops and changing anything on the car, they go into the pit stop and the driver gets out and sits in a different car to complete the next half of the race. So instead of racing to change tyres as quickly as possible, they're racing to get the driver in and out of one car and strapped into a new one as quickly as possible. But they've instituted a minimum time for safety reasons, and so everyone can get it done in that time, and then he sat there waiting to go out. And pretty much the entire field did it at exactly the same time. So there's this weird moment in the Grand Prix where everyone just goes and parks up and sat in the car waiting to go again. I feel like some kind of swappable battery packs in the car would be far more interesting and much more relevant technology to filter down into actual road cars. And aside from the race, the other thing to talk about is the general TV coverage itself. Here in the UK, it was shown on ITV4, which is not the most prestigious channel, but even at 8 AM on a Saturday morning, it did manage to bring in 0.7 million viewers apparently. But the whole hour pre-show that they aired just seemed to lack excitement. The main presenter just kind of reading off a script and not really sounding all that interested, and also the fact that they were in a studio, not live at the location, just made it feel a bit disconnected and weird. I guess over the last few years I've become spoiled by the Sky F1 coverage. I'd kind of hoped they'd be able to fit Formula E into their schedule, They must be starved for content rather than repeating Grand Prix after Grand Prix as they do on the channel. But I guess the more they add, the more danger it's becoming a motorsport channel rather than the F1 channel, even though they already do show GP2 and GP3. It was only the first race of a brand new series, so I've got to at least give them some slack and chance to improve. Come the end of the series, I'll have to do some kind of comparison of how they've changed and improved the coverage. There were an awful lot of ad breaks in the pre-show, but I can cope with that as it allowed them to show the race uninterrupted, which is something that ITV never managed to do when they had the rights to F1 years ago. So overall, I would say I was a fan after the first race, and I hope they can continue to grow and improve over the season. It's just a little bit unfortunate that the next race isn't until the end of November. So they're going to lose a lot of the hype that's been built up over this weekend. Did any of you watch? If so, let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and I will see you again next time.